being into spirituality and your husband be so supportive, and then, him getting taken away from you.
I said, right, God, I will try to accept. This is it. He never came back. I was someone that would never ever believe in none of that until I actually could see my grandfather. So from there, I started developing, my psychic abilities. The spiritual element was there, but I felt disconnected. I actually went to a stage that nothing else mattered for me. And I really need to reinvent myself.
What did you find who Marcela is in this new version?
Don't really care anymore for fears.
Marcela Onyx, welcome to the Inspired by Show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Chloe.
No problem. Well, do you know what, Marcela? We've been talking for a little while about lots of different things that we're working on together, which I'm sure we'll chat about today. But I have been so excited to interview you for this show because I know of your focus on spirituality, on your passions, and we often have conversations that not a lot of people like to have in public, let alone or in private. So, Marcela, for anyone who doesn't know you, I met you more as a sort of spiritual, intuitive coach, but I know you do specialize in relationships. What's attracted you in your speaking and in your career in focusing on that spirituality side?
That's a very interesting question, because I was someone that would never ever believe in none of that. And I would be very skeptical, scared, until one day I was talking with my cousin, and we have lost our granddad, there was a few years. And she said to me that she often could dream with him. And I was like, right, okay, switch off the phone, bedtime comes, and then I'm talking by myself in my bedroom and say, right, Granddad, that's not fair. You always told me I was the favorite. How can she have dreams with you, but you never come to visit me? And it happened on that night. And it was so, so real. I could see him, I could feel him, I could feel his hug. And I get emotional because, it was so special for me. And my husband, he was asleep and said, "You okay?" And I was like, it's okay. Never wanting to come back, from my experience. And what I have realized is from that night, my life has changed completely. So I started wanting to try past life regression. And the person have used a few scripts. None of them has worked at all until I actually could see my grandfather. And then he held my hand and he said, "It's okay, you're safe." And I was like, wow, I want more of this.
Yeah.
And from there, I start developing, my psychic abilities, which everyone can do this. And I literally had access to see people's names and search for them. And this is how I started with my first spiritual development. My first tutor, I just had his name. I searched it, and he lived literally 15 minutes away from me. So I started joining, spiritual development circles, and years down the line, that caused me a lot of trouble, by the way, because open up for my spirituality also was the time, 2018, I said to my husband, I said, "Listen, I think we need to get a divorce because I need to listen to this call. I really need to carry on developing. And it's so important for me to be able to be not just the executive, not just the mother, that stay at home and can do everything for the boys and, be the wife. I need something for me and I need to answer this call." And, we went for crisis, and he basically said, "I would never give up on you. I will never leave 10 years of our relationship to just go because you need to answer this call. And I believe you, and I know you're going to do amazing, and you're going to help, a huge amount of people. And I'm going to be the mother and the father for the kids. Whenever you decide that you need to go for your courses, your training, and you can literally just forget everything, live with me." And I was like, okay, that's a bit kind of unusual. He accepted, he supported me, and I was like, wow, never expected that. So the first weekend that I went away, I arrived at home, my food, 8 p.m. in the evening on a Sunday, my food was freshly made for me. He checked, how long for I drive. It was like 2 hours away. So he have good fresh food for me. Kids' uniform was ironed. The house was sparkling, smelling so lovely. And I was like, wow, it just feels like I never left. It was so good. And I was thinking, yeah, he got this. So I just never have stopped. So the spirituality for me also, funny enough, yeah, I have been through grief and lost him over 3 years ago. And the fact is, the spirituality didn't really help in a sense that I went through a phase where I just wanted to be with him. And I was like, no, if he's in a better place, if he's in the spirit world or whatever he is, it's not fair he leave me behind. You go through all sorts of silly thoughts when you are in pain. And I remember very well, all the time that I felt I was struggling, I always would call him and I always would say, baby, please come closer. Please give me healing. And I would start feeling, that peace within myself. And I have learned that love does carry on. And I even have written about this. It's one of my books. The love does carry on. And it's amazing how when you meet someone that is your soulmate and you just know, and both of you know that love just carry on in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And that person always will be there with you, inspiring you, cheering, being your cheerleader. And it's just, you need to learn to have a different level of love and acceptance of the reality that changes. And yeah, everything else they need to deal in terms of the changes that come totally unexpected with the traumas.
Yeah. Wow, Marcela, thank you for sharing so openly and no, never apologize. I think this is the beautiful thing about being so open and raw and real, is that we all have so many experiences that we've experienced. And, you touched on there with your grandfather, and that's really was the first step to your spirituality. How is that for you then to commit to being into your spirituality and your husband be so supportive? And then, as you mentioned, him getting taken away from you. What happened in that moment?
So, it's like we never was expecting this, because we both knew this has been our third life together. Yeah. And we also understood all the lessons that we have to learn together. Like, I feel so blessed. One of my gifts that I had when I started developing the healing side, I would touch people, and as I was giving the healing, sometimes I would have access to a past life. And how that past life was still relevant to this life, to lessons that the person was struggling to see and understand. And I have met people that have been my sister, and my mother, in other lives, in this life, and it has been an amazing experience. But just going back to the fact that how I felt betrayed. Because I thought, you know what? This is our third life together. The other two, I knew that he also left. And because we achieved a stage in our relationship that we had to overcome so many challenges. And in the end, we have learned what unconditional love meant. We was able, especially in the last year, to have so many open heart conversations and understand, I am so sorry I have said this, or I have treated you in this way. Now I can understand that I only have behaved in this way because X and Z has happened in my life, and I have reacted in this way, and it worked for me. But I recognize that now you are a different being, and the same methodology, it didn't work for you. And then he would say, yeah, thank you, that's beautiful. But I get these from other people, within my family and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I cannot answer for no one else. I can only say, I'm sorry. I believe I understand now. And it was just beautiful because we got there in the end.
Now, I just wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to share a quick message with you. Now, I've been hosting these interviews with Inspired by Show for a while now, and I've been loving all of the great feedback from our listeners. And it really means a lot when you all share from listening to these episodes, watching these episodes, share your incredible feedback. And I love that you love it as much as we do. Now, my mission for the Inspired by Show is to inspire others to challenge the norm, share their story, knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable and, shock horror, take the mask off and be raw and real. So I have a favour to ask. Can you help me on this mission by sharing this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this message? Maybe there's a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or someone that you know that would really benefit from hearing this inspiring story. If you could do that to help us, help even more people to challenge the norm and push themselves out of their own comfort zone, then I'd really appreciate it. So if you haven't already, share this episode with a friend, a loved one, a colleague, or someone that you know would benefit. Now, back to the episode.
We learned to accept without ever try to change each other.
Wow.
And in terms of lessons, and feel that unconditional love, that level, and then suddenly things being taken away from me, I was literally starting to want to have my own business at that stage. Yeah, working on it. And he started feeling some pains, and he said to me, baby, can you give a massage on my back? I'm just feeling some pain. And I was like, okay, right, I can take you to the hospital now. I don't want to leave the kids alone. It was always the kids first, And I was like, no, they're going to be fine. They come with us. And they said, no, it's fine. I'm going to see the chiropractor, which was next door to the hospital. Yeah. And it's going to be okay. He went to see the chiropractor. He said, oh, it's just something with my back. He went to have a hot bath. He loved hot baths. When he came back, I finished the meeting. I look at him and he's just rubbing his legs. And he's saying, I'm in so much pain. Something's not right. And I was like, okay, Rob, I'm going to call your dad. Is that okay? Take you? Yeah, fine. So, we have spoke with his family. The family was like 5 minutes away, from us. And I have seen him. And he said, I even joked, and I said, babe, have you, got clean pants? He said, yeah, of course, I just had a bath. But I was just joking with him. I said, yeah, well, you never know what's going to happen, the nurse, they might need to, get you to have an injection in your bum. And it's just being playful. And I came downstairs. As soon as I came downstairs, both of my kids, they was by the stairs, Dad's okay. And I said, I think so, but we're going to take him to the hospital. And then he shouted something. And I said to my son, I said, what your dad said? And he said, I think my dad said, I think I am passing out. So by the time we arrived there, we watched his last breath. And I had seen him just fainting in the bed. And this was a memory that I had from another life, which I have seen him in bed. So I thought, no, not again. So I got him through his legs, started giving him the PCR, and we phoned the ambulance, and his family, his mother arrived and gave the second PCR. And as a healer, I was there for 45 minutes crying, asking everyone in the spirit world to come and look after him. We had 3 paramedics, ambulance, we had a helicopter. Everything was there, waiting for him. And at some point, I realized, you know what? He never would want to stay left in a bed. He never would want to be left behind without the life that he always had. And at that time, I said, right, God, I need to be humble now and just say, if that's what it needs to be done, I will try to accept. And this is it. He never came back. And by the time the doctor holded my hands, asking to talk with me, I already knew. But yeah, that was literally just the beginning of a hell in my life.
Wow, incredible.
I mean, it has not been easy because, yes, you blame God. And being a spiritual person is like, why you guys never warned me? Why you never gave me any signs? And yeah, it took a long time for I find that peace. and be able to understand that, everyone that even work as healers, including doctors, it's not up to us. And we can always do only our best to be able to give the support, the love, the energy that the person needs, whatever is the healing that the person needs. Yeah. It's not up to me to think, okay, let's try to heal this person on an emotional level, on a physical level. No. I literally just work as a channel and allow the healing that the person at that stage would need, but they know better. Because sometimes, and I even say this when I work with people, when the trauma is concerned, I can help them to understand what has been holding them back. And I take them on a journey. I can literally see things, and then, we have a chat and take them to a stage where they can actually see too, and sometimes feel and learn the lessons. Because for we be able to move on, the best healing will take place when we understand why we are repeating patterns. Why we had to go through so many things in our life, people that has toxic relationships, people that never was able to feel love, or they have been in relationships and they come to me and we start talking, and then I do some exercise with them and I was like, right, okay, so what do you think? Oh my God, just realized that the only person that has loved me has been my mother. And then, we start working on and understand the whys, and then they can start actually to open their heart and feel the love. And especially with men, I love to work with men. It's so rewarding for me, to be able to support people that sometimes struggle with the stereotypes that, the society give to them, and then having them open to just be themselves and be able to feel, that trust when we're working, and see that transformation happen. I always say that to my clients. I know my job is done when I can look to my clients and see that beautiful smile.
Oh, wow.
And I know that's the end of the session. Job done.
That's the thing though, Marcela, I was going to say, you seem to have come so far in your own healing. I mean, just from what I know about you and even how you present yourself here, to go through such a, my words, traumatic experience from something so unexpected to now coming out the other side and healing other people. I guess my question for you, Marcela, is, did you ever lose faith or lose the belief in the spirituality when such a difficult thing had happened to you?
Well, another great question. I feel no, because I know all of this is real. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working as a medium. And I know how much healing it is. We be able to allow ourselves to be on that path of service, where we are there literally just to give evidence somehow that there is life progression. But more than that, I think the best mediumship take place when our clients can actually feel the essence of their loved ones. They can see sometimes the mannerism, something as we're talking. You may be, for example, my grandmother. Yeah, when she comes, if she start holding her throat, I know what she means with that. There is the whole loads of funny stories about that. But if the person is doing this, I know it's an evidence for me that she's definitely there. Yay!
Wow.
I can feel the presence and everything. So yes, I knew that yes, there is some level of the spiritual element was there, but I felt disconnected. And I take that full responsibility, because I actually went to a stage that nothing else mattered for me. And I really need to reinvent myself, And it was interesting because, we have the book. And what's the true story about the book? I decided to think about what I could give to people as a lead magnet. And I have written something that would be an ebook full of images And the title of the book is the same one, it never changed, and involved the vulnerability. And I realized that, the book, it looked beautiful. It had 75 pages, probably like 50 images on it. But I never was vulnerable. I never have spoken about me.
Wow.
And I was thinking, it was just something to give away. It was, okay. Then something has happened to, one of my sons, and it was very toxic, the situation. And watching my son, crying in front of me and asking himself how people can be so horrible. And I look at him and I was thinking, okay, there's nothing I can do. I can never change anyone. We all need to be able to take responsibility for our pain when we're grieving, to take responsibility for the words that we say, for the actions that we take. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. The personal responsibility is part of our growth. So at that stage, what I thought is, you know what? I'm going to rewrite the whole thing. And I have transmuted the anger that I felt, the pain that I felt. I scrapped the whole thing and start writing the real book, the real story, the things that I was considering that it could inspire people. And then the book was born.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring though, because exactly what you said, a lot of people talk about vulnerability, but not actually being vulnerable in it. It's like people, one of my bugbears in our industry is people talk about authenticity without being authentic, And I think there's a risk that there's buzzwords that people use, vulnerability, authenticity, where they think they need to be a certain way, but it's actually showing up as that, opening your heart, like what you are doing now with us, being so vulnerable and honest about how you are feeling during that time is exactly what people need to hear. Now, you talked about there the pain and, the struggle that you were going through, because obviously it is a massive shock to the system. Indeed. Did you ever get answers from the doctors or from the medical professionals as to what had happened to your husband?
Well, he had a heart attack and he has a history in the family, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yes, it was totally unexpected. He had high blood pressure, but he was on medication. So, yeah. And as they say, I know it's very cliche, but when the time comes, there is nothing that we can do. And it took me a long time to process that, to accept that, to find peace with that. But now I look to my whole life, how much it has changed after over 3 years. And this book I have written now, I have been showed exactly the same colors, everything, and I was showed that I would be writing a book in 2018.
Wow.
In 2018, and I have been showed many other things that it didn't happen yet, but I felt like, wow, totally incapable. No belief that I could write anything. And I was like, okay, if this is the mission, if this is what you guys want for me, and if you believe me, I will accept and I will do whatever you guys want, because I'm here to serve. And that's something else too that I came into a realization, within the grief process. At some point, one of the things I have done for myself, I have recorded myself. And I have watched it. It was 45 minutes. I getting angry with God, angry with all the toxic, situation and people that was in my life at that time. And I have let all the frustration, all the anger, everything comes out. And then I watch it. And oh my God, I felt so sorry for that version of me that was in pain. And at that stage, I realized, what am I doing to myself? Because when my husband passed away, I haven't really spoken with my family. in Brazil for probably the first 2 months, not properly open, because I thought, I'm here and I am by myself. I need to try to sort this shit out and find the strength. And I realized at that stage I was receiving lots of private messages. And one from someone called Peter that had met one of my healing trainings. And he messaged me and he said, Marcela, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. But if there is someone that I know that has all the power, all the wisdom, and all the strength that is necessary to overcome this and whatever God and life and all the shit has been thrown at you, that person is you. You need to remember your power. You need to remember your strength. But while that doesn't happen, allow us to look after you. Allow us to send you the love and the strength that you need. Because you do so much for everyone. And it's like, this is probably our first time ever that we can give you something back. And it was so touching. And I was like, wow. And then at that stage, I realized, you know what? My husband passed away thinking that he was not loved, thinking that he was not appreciated by all the people that he also helped. And I am still here. And I have all of these people from all over the world sending me so many wonderful messages that I just need to allow myself to receive that love, to receive that healing, that strength. And then finding, with time, that place where I could forgive God. And I could understand that we don't have to have answers for everything. And what I know is the version that I am today is not even a version of myself that I ever thought existed within me.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I asked that question, though, because I think there are so many of us that are struggling. And from my experience, when I've gone through severe grief or loss, I have ended up being very frustrated and annoyed at whatever you believe in. For me, it's the universe. But it was almost that frustration of, like you said earlier, why me? Why didn't you warn me? And I think we all know that there are stages that people go through in grief. One of them I experienced is anger and frustration and almost like hatred towards the world, for better of a phrase. And I think that's where so many of us can struggle, because we get so absorbed in the frustration, the sadness, the anger. From your experience, Marcela, with yourself first, do you think people can really overcome grief? Like, can it actually ever really go away?
I don't think it goes away. So, for example, I have a new partner in my life. And I'm so blessed that he does understand grief. He have lost everyone. So, and how interesting is that he's very much like my youngest son. The two together, you're thinking, no, please, no. There are jokes and everything. It can be a little bit too much. So I'm very blessed in this sense to have someone that can understand. But beyond that, he respects so much my grief. He respects so much the love that I still have for my beloved. Yeah. But I still have those moments that I need to take that time for myself, for self-care. So, for example, I acknowledge that I can do very well now with birthdays, anniversaries. It's fine. But things like my kid's birthday, it has been still a challenge for me. Because my kids, in the reality, have been brought to this world from someone else. And this is how I met my husband. He have lost his first wife, and 2 months later, we have met. And then a month after I've met him in person, I literally just sold my collection of shoes, traded my best friend to live in the company where I was working for, because everything just happened so quickly.
Wow.
So, yeah, so he trusted me to be, the mother of their kids and raise them. And I have been their life and been their mom that is like a lion, there for everything they need for the past over 15 years. So now what I have realized is my oldest son now is 19. He is doing amazingly well with the career that he has chosen. Yeah. He has a girlfriend. He bought his first car. Yeah. 10. End of November is my youngest son's birthday. Then a week later is my oldest. So I went back to grief. I disappeared in December. I went back to grief because I realized that, you know what? I'm not grieving only because Dad's not here to see the men that you both are turning up into amazing, amazing men. And I take the credit because I am the mother and the father, And they also have been through a lot. We have experienced the same trauma in different perspectives, But not having the dad there to celebrate with us, that still hurts. Especially now, this huge phase of amazing celebrations and achievements. But then I realized I also was grieving my son getting older and and having a girlfriend and trying to deal with that, and then being someone extremely open, as I mentioned, many amazing, let's say, insights on my book. Especially I have written in a way that it can help anyone, independent of being in a relationship, independent of their identity. That was something I was very, very cautious about. Because when I get to know people, I don't look for the sex. I connect with their heart. I connect with their sense.
Yeah. So,
going back to your question, there always will be some element, some level there of grief, and some people may struggle more than others, and it's always age, and it always depends of the level of relationship, the level of intimacy, the level of love, and whatever was the shape, the form, the connection that you had with the person.
Yeah. And Marcela, what was that like for you then, going from, like you said, the love of your life, losing him and him passing away, and then trying to move on? You're talking about your new relationship. How do you even navigate that from an individual's perspective, let alone the fact that you've got, kids to consider?
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying. There's so many things going on through my mind now. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I had in my mind, I was like, right, God, I came into my husband's life 2 months after you have met someone. So you got to do the same deal for me?
You're like, I know this is possible.
Yeah. And I was like, I said, no, I can't. It's just too much. I am someone that is heart-based. I need to be able to receive so I can also give. This is the story I actually was telling myself. But it was not true. It was far away to be true because I was not ready for anything. I was not ready to give my heart to anyone, to make space in my life to anyone. And it took me a year, to be able to start putting myself out there, And it was so interesting. The first person I have met, and that's me just being vulnerable, just being me, just talking, and I don't care who's going to be listening to this. No, I care, I love all of you. But any case, let me just share something funny. So I have met someone extremely wealthy. By the way, he does live in Chelsea.
Which, for anyone who's listening or watching, is where our studio is. So.
No.
Small world.
Sure he's not. Any case. So in my mind, it was like, right, okay, I can't live on this life that I am now. I need to change my whole wardrobe, if I'm going to have any relationship with this person, and they'll go to, fancy restaurants and things like that. So it was the first stage, go through the wardrobe and change the whole side of the wardrobe that belonged to my husband. It was a shoe there. That was probably the second most painful day of my life. Like, my oldest son helped me, and people that go through grief, they understand what I'm saying. Every single item, it has a story, it has a memory, and it's difficult. And it's done. We got rid of everything. We have kept loads of things, and I stayed 3 days in bed after that. I had no energy. I was totally drained. That's what I'm saying. It probably was the second worst day of my life. You need some tissues here, Chloë?
We'll need to get a box for the table.
Jesus, I'm probably the first one that comes here. Sorry.
Don't worry, take your time, lovely.
Oh dear, right. Any case, so I have met this person, and it didn't work because he was not ready to meet my kids. And I was like, okay. Imagine, at that time, we was not in full lockdown. And I had the forest holiday park. Yeah, I had a cabin for 12 people, plus the tree house, all for us. And I thought, create the perfect atmosphere and environment, for we meet everybody, and very friendly, He was scared, he never showed up. He apologized. And I was like, you know what? You can't, be so welcome to my kids. It means you're not the right person.
Yeah.
See you later.
That's the hard bit, though, isn't it? Because you've now got kids to protect as well.
Yeah.
And I know any mum that's looking for love, or dad, or any, guardian, shall we say, has that responsibility. But when you've lost someone, like, it's not like you left someone.
Yeah.
It must feel different. I mean, how did you then decide that the person you're with now is the person you want them to be?
That's a very good question.
I hope you have decided that.
So
I've asked that question.
Any case, we haven't signed any papers yet.
See, we laugh and we cry on the show. That's what the show's about.
Well, I just want to go back to that first example, because I want to share why I'm mentioning this. Looking back to everything I have been through, and the people that I have met, every single one of them, they had a role in my grief process. They was responsible for something, okay? The role of this first person was actually somehow be in my life. So I had the strength to be able to make space in my life for something new, in my wardrobe for something new. Yeah. Before, no shame, my space in the wardrobe was only 75 centimeters. Yeah. Now I just have a huge space, loads and loads and loads and loads of clothes. Went back to my shoe collections.
Love it.
But it has been that beginning that I needed to start to slowly giving myself permission to be able to investigate who is this new version of me, be able to somehow allow myself to be awakened to life, to relationship, and nowadays to love. It's still not fully open, and my partner knows that, and he still respects, and he has loads and loads of patience. But it's a work in progress.
Yeah. I think the key is for people not to compare and
impossible.
feel
impossible. I'm so sorry, impossible.
Yeah, exactly, impossible, because there's people are so different, aren't they? And I think a lot of people, when you lose, and I can't relate to losing a loved one in the sense that you have, I can relate to other members of my family. When people start to try and replace the puzzles don't fit. They just don't fit. And I think the key thing is, from what I've experienced, is look for the benefits and the love from that person in their way. And I think that's something that I love to talk about with you, Marcela, because you obviously help people through this. You mentioned there about how you had to find this new identity of yourself, which we know is the first step to moving on and dealing with grief once you feel ready. What did you find when you started looking at who Marcela is in this new version?
I mean, it's like every year I am going to different phases. It's like giving myself permission to just be me and don't really care anymore for fears. You know, this is why I can be sitting here and I can talk about any subject and just say, you know what? I don't care, because I am the one that actually pay my own bills. Yeah, I am the one that is in charge of my life, of my inner world. And I control too what the external world can affect or not. And usually nothing nowadays affects my inner world, you know. And this is what I like to take people through that journey of self-discovery, of self-empowerment, to truly understand why all of the things that they have been blaming the government, their culture, their parents, anything that they have not taken responsibility to decide, okay, from now on, I am willing to go back, to sit with that pain, to sit with that trauma, and try to see what actually I have not been able to see all of this time. And it does work, you know, and I know it can be painful. You know, I know it can bring anxiety and many other feelings that it's going to bring a little bit of uncomfort. But, you know, the way I work with people, they feel so relaxed. They feel the love, you know, within that journey. You know, that even when I can see, right, okay, so I can see we're not there yet. We haven't seen what we still need to see, because I can sense, and that's entirely up to you. If you think that for today you had enough, we can continue another session. And that gives them the choice to actually thinking, you know what, no, let's just carry on. You know, so when people come to see me, I don't charge them for the hour. I charge for the session. And that's why I said, my session comes to an end when I know my job has been done. You know, because love, integrity, they're so important for me. And if people can work with me and feel that, and actually be integral with themselves too, and say, you know what, I can feel that love and the strength that you're also giving me. And I think that we can do this.
Yeah.
And this is why I say I only work with people that trust that I am the one that can support them. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You know, and then you realize that trust is everything that you already have within you, but you feel disconnected because when you are in pain, you focus on what you don't have. And I have been there, and I know it's exactly like that. We focus only on everything that we don't have. We blame everyone because we're too scared to face the truth. We're too scared to realize that, yeah, you know what? These people has been really toxic. But from now on, I'm going to have boundaries. I really had enough, and I'm going to let you know that from now on, I don't want to have you in my life anymore. Because my world doesn't need to be here teaching you lessons. I have learned mine. I can move on. Thank you very much.
Love that distinction. It is about that process and being strong enough, like you say, the internal work, to be certain of your boundaries and then actually sticking to them, you know. Marcela, obviously, I know that you've got fantastic books. I mean, the fact that you didn't think you were going to write one, I've lost count of how many books you've featured in and co-authored in, including the one that we've been in together. Obviously, we're recording this before the books have come out, so I'm sure people will have access to them by the time we're recording this. But you share a lot of advice in your, let's talk about your most recent book.
Okay.
You share a lot of advice about overcoming grief and also vulnerability and sexuality. Now, we're not going to talk too much about that now, but I'm curious from your perspective, what advice would you give to someone that, say, lost a romantic partner that is now trying to be vulnerable with a new romantic partner?
Okay. That's a really challenging thing to say, because I have been in grief support groups, and I need to be extremely honest.
Mhm.
As always, I had to
Always.
remove myself because it was not helping me. Because there is so much pain that we also need to honor. Yeah. So saying, just do this, just do that, it's very general, very generic. I can only say and help that person, that one person. And this is why I'm a bit against me being honest again, sorry, group coaching. Yeah, I'm sure you, like me, have invested a lot in group coaching. Yeah. And we know we can get a little bit of benefit from it, but it's not talking to us. It's not sorting our problem. Yeah. So we invest in loads of things that we never get the benefit. Yeah. So just say one thing that can help everyone. I think I would be very unfair. And I have been there. I know it doesn't work. It's really allowing you to be into that place that you make the decision. Okay, so today I had enough of crying. I want to just sit. And when I say just sit, it's just sit in silence. Get your hands into your heart. Make yourself present for yourself. Try to listen what your body is telling you. Try to listen what that young version of yourself might be telling you. Because the majority of the time, yeah, we are neglecting the young version of ourselves. We are neglecting ourselves when we are in pain. And I'm saying that because I remember looking myself in the mirror and I was like, what am I doing? I'm getting older so fast, crying every single day. And no one actually was able to help me. You know, coming from the background of personal and spiritual development, I have chosen probably 2 to 3 people that I was happy to see. I was happy to be raw. I was happy to cry in front of them because I knew they wouldn't be bothered about me crying on and on and on and on. They was happy to just sit for me. You know, and I think this is one of the beauty with the counseling skills, yeah, which is exactly what you're doing now to me. Give me the space and just be there for me and just listen. And sometimes people need to understand that space, yes, but don't disappear from people's life because we also grieve the ones that have been to our loved one's life and suddenly they're not there. The amount of flowers that I had in my house from people that never have even heard that they existed. And what for? Why? To show that you're paying respect for someone that's not here anymore? So if you are listening to us today, give a beautiful hug, a beautiful smile to a stranger, to someone that you already share, you know, the environment with. We have people that every single day, what's there close to them? Their phone. When was the last time that you was able to just look yourself in the mirror and just say, you know what? I really love you. Oh my God, you know that little fat that you have, that shit, I love that too. That's part of us, you know, because you love what you eat.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you have put weight again. How dare you? Look how you look like. No, it's actually enjoying. and remember that you can be your best friend. And once you are into that state that you love yourself for who you are, you don't fear anyone to look for flaws and imperfections on you, because you know they exist anyway. You have made peace with them.
Yeah.
And something that I never forget that. One of the interviews that I have watched from Anitta, a very famous Brazilian singer, she was talking about the amount of plastic surgeries that she had. Yeah. And what I understand that from, when you listen something and the person says one thing, yeah, and you absorb whatever you wanted from that conversation. I have watched the interview, and what I heard is, so she's also saying to us, it's okay to love yourself. It's okay to accept yourself for who you are. But if you also have money and you can afford to change the little things that you're not happy with, oh, yes, baby, go for it. Do it.
Wow.
And what's the problem with that? If it's going to make you happy, it's going to make you love yourself and accept yourself even more. Woo, just do it. So, yeah, I thought this is what I got from the interview, even though this might not be the words that she used.
Yeah, that you took what you needed out of it at that time. But I think that you're right, though. It's about being happy with yourself. I'm a massive believer in you can't be happy with other people unless you're happy with yourself. We're all heard of the phrase, you can't expect someone to love you if you don't love you first, And I think it's so inspiring what you shared, Marcela, around all your story. And thank you for being so open and transparent. It's a massive part of our show. And I know for a fact your story will be inspiring so many people listening to this and obviously reading the book, whether it's one of the books that we're working on or whether it's in your solo books as well. Now, Marcela, we're almost out of time. I feel like we could just talk forever. Can you believe it? So we have a tradition on the show, which is our final four. Now, it's something we've recently introduced for our new season. And this is where we have some set questions, quick fire rounds to just get into the inspiration of who's been around you and what's inspired you on your journey. So first question for you is, who has inspired you on your journey through what you've been through and why?
The person that always have inspired me is my dad. And why I always like to think in this way, because we know when we are on the media, people sometimes they need to choose the story that they want to tell. Yeah, which is not my case. As I said, I'm happy to talk about anything. But any case, my dad, he only have studied until year 4 in the college. And my dad have, built so many, houses for us, not with his physical hands because he's very bossy. He hired the people and he say, right, this is wrong, do this again, and blah, blah, blah. Any case, so dad had built his own empire, and he always said, your name is all that you have. Everything that you do, make sure you can be honest, you can be integral, and you're doing it for the right cause. And wow. He's the anchor, especially now that we have lost grandma too. He's the anchor in the family, so he's my hero. Any case,
I love that. That's so beautiful. My dad's my hero too.
Yeah,
so
even
I
though
love that.
I am adoptive too. And my dad have raised me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's even more beautiful. Even more beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Marcela. Next of our final four is, what book has inspired you throughout your journey? So a bit of context, as you know, we obviously run a book publishing company, Inspired by Publishing. And so I find books are very inspiring on our journeys and help us a lot. So which book would you say has helped you the most?
Okay, so something that has a special meaning for me is the Ask and It's Given. From Stan Hicks. It has the spiritual element there, but it is a book that me and my husband, we actually have read together. We have, share some ideas. And I remember at that time, I have basically done my first vision board. And a year later, I looked to my vision board and I realized that everything that I had put there, it has manifested. It has not manifested in specifically how I wanted, but the meaning, the context was there, including our home.
Wow.
So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah,
and I
very
love that you did it
powerful.
together. That's even more incredible.
Yes.
Fantastic. Next question. If you were to write a book, what book would you write and why? Now, we know you've written a couple of books. So what would be the next book?
My next book potentially would be my first book that I started writing and I've just parked. So the title is Awakening. Your truth is what matters. And literally just talk about awakening, what awakening means. And get people, again, from what I love to do, get people to think out of the box. Get people to question more things, go within and finding their own truth.
Oh my gosh,
without
I love
any influence.
I love that. Love that book. Oh, amazing. And final question for you, lovely. Who do you know that has an inspiring story that we should have on the show next?
Okay, so the person I'm going to say is Jackie Wright. She doesn't have one, but many. She's the president of the Spiritual National Union. So she's making a difference now as a president and then, trying to, bring lots of changes, within the spiritualism as a religion. But yeah, she cannot do alone. And I'm sure she'll have many stories that can inspire loads of people too.
Wow. Thank you so much. Love that.
you.
Well, we'll definitely be in touch and see if we can get her on the show. Marcela, this has been so much fun. We'll have to get you back for more spicy conversations. Definitely. I love it's like two very honest people. Like God knows what we could talk about, but thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been awesome and I'm super excited.
My pleasure. And we haven't even touched the spiciness.
I know. We need like an over 18s version of this for us to have different conversations. So
thank you so much. And thank you everyone who will be watching us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, guys, what an episode that has been. I hope you have enjoyed that episode with Marcela as much as I did. So if you haven't already and you're one of our usual viewers on the show, then you already know what I'm going to say. Make sure that you share in the comments what has been the most inspiring part of this episode. What has really clicked in your mind? You think, do you know what? I need to action that. What part of Marcela's story or her advice has really impacted you today? Make sure you share it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube or listening on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else that you get your podcast platforms and your podcasts, make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe to the show, you follow us so that you don't miss our next inspiring guest. I'll see you next week.